Hey folks, Red Labor here. I'm hoping you're having a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I want to about Occupy Wall Street and this false accusation that is somehow anti-Semitic. It comes through a video I stumbled across on YouTube where they're talking about if Occupy Wall Street is anti-Semitic, and there's been all kinds of comments up there, rational comments and irrational comments on all sides. Okay, here, it goes like this. There was a commercial by the Republican Party that criticized President Obama, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, and U.S. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid over their tacit support of Occupy Wall Street. And then they started showing individuals that made some terrible remarks about Jewish people, or those that were criticizing the concept of Zionism, or making really nasty remarks about Israel. And then they're trying to make it out, guilt by association, that somehow Occupy Wall Street and anti-Semitic bigotry go hand in hand. Now, I am a leftist. I am a socialist, a democratic socialist, and I'm not particularly fond of the Tea Party. But when I hear people on my side of the fence, whether they're mainstream liberals who are moderate types, Democratic Party types, they're mainstream and more conservative than I am, even though people claim they're liberal, or all the way up to the radical left. Basically, when they say things like, well, the Tea Party's racist, I will respond that the Tea Party in itself is not racist, but there are people who are racist in the Tea Party. Most Tea Party members are not, or supporters are not racist, and I know that. Their dislike of President Obama and their dislike of Democrats in the House and the Senate and Democrats across the country is more of an ideological disagreement. Go viral. It's partisan hackery, really, more than anything else. Now, I do believe there are people in the Tea Party that hates Barack Obama because he's black. And, they're the kinds of people that think he was born in Kenya, he's a secret Muslim, trying to destroy Western civilization. But if you're a Tea Party member and you're prompted to go into the Tea Party because you hate high taxes and you hate what you think is socialized medicine under Obama, I may have disagreements with you guys. No, I don't think that's necessarily a bigoted or a prejudiced belief system to have. So I can discern. The same thing applies to Occupy Wall Street, okay? I am a firm supporter of Occupy Wall Street. And I do not for a second believe that any more than I would about the Tea Party and their positions on blacks. I do not believe that Occupy Wall Street, as a general rule, embraces anti-Semitic bigotry. I mean, so there you have it. That is my basic position. Neither the Tea Party nor Occupy Wall Street embrace anti-Semitic bigotry or racial bigotry. So I'm going to set the record straight. Now, I know the video they had a couple of quotes by some crazy individuals, okay? Alright. As if the Tea Party doesn't have crazy people speaking. I mean, I've heard some over-the-top rhetoric by Tea Party activists too now. So don't act like the Tea Party's all rational while Occupy Wall Street are filled with kooks. You got kooks in both movements, and you got people who are rational human beings that have political disagreements with the other side. I mean, it is what it is. And, I'm not, as I said, I'm a supporter of Occupy Wall Street, and I don't particularly like the Tea Party politically overall. But, okay, I'm not going to sit there and dish you if you're a member of the Tea Party. I mean, or think you're just an evil human being or what have you. And I'm just stating what, my position on this. Now, as far as anti-Semitism and the Tea Party, are you kidding me? I mean, have you seen an Occupy Wall Street event? Folks, it wouldn't exactly be the hardest thing in the world to find a lot of Jewish people at Occupy Wall Street, and there is a reason for this. If I may generalize and even stereotype in a benign way for a moment about Jewish people. You know why you see Jewish people at Occupy Wall Street? I will tell you why. Because no ethnic group throughout history has been treated more like shit than the Jewish people in the Western world. In the Western world, they were treated like shit. And it was done by the political right over the centuries. It was done by organized religion over the centuries. It was done, and in some countries, it was mere suspicion at best. In some countries, it was overt persecution. And of course, in Germany, World War II, we know what happened there, an extermination of the Jewish people. And I'm sorry, folks on the center right that wants to act like the Nazis were on the left. They weren't. They were on the right. So the Jewish enemies has always traditionally been on the political right, the hard right, not the middle right, not the responsible right, not the center right, not the mainstream conservatives, but I'm talking about the hard right. So there you have it. In the Muslim world, and we're going to say the Muslim world, anti-Semitism has been practiced by their right wing, the fundamentalists that exist in the Muslim world. So, I mean, whether it's done by the right-leaning Christians in Western civilization throughout the centuries, or whether it's done by right-wing leaning Muslims in the Middle East and various Muslim societies throughout the world, anti-Semitism transpired as a result. And, just like human nature as it is, Jewish people ended up supporting politically left-wing causes because they were concerned about their own liberation and the liberation of others. And I mean, it's not just the Jewish people. There are other, this is why African Americans in America tends to be politically on the left as well. It's because they face centuries of discrimination, from the inhumane and denigrating institution of slavery all the way to Jim Crow in the South. Yeah, I mean, they went to the political left because you had those in the indifferent right that would not do anything to integrate, and you had those on the hard right that thought segregation was a wonderful system. So yes, they went politically toward the left, and it's not just African Americans and Jewish people, it's Hispanics, gay and lesbians, when they were always persecuted by those of power, those that had big money behind them, those that have the social institutions behind them, and that was always associated politically on the right. So there you have it. So, I mean, you're not likely to see African Americans or Jewish people or gays or Latinos at a Tea Party event. Even if you white folks in the Tea Party are sincere and do not harbor any prejudice toward blacks, Jews, Hispanics, or gays. I mean, it's just, they're not going to really find any reason to join the movement. Now, maybe with the exception of the libertarians who are consistent and are socially left and fiscally right. I mean, that may be an avenue. And So I'm ranting on and on about this, but as far as Occupy Wall Street, it isn't anti-Semitic. It's ridiculous to even assert it for a second. I'm a supporter of Occupy Wall Street, and although I'm not Jewish, I also support the state of Israel, and I consider myself politically a Zionist. And I get a little flack from some of those on the left over this issue, but it is what it is, and it's not me that has the problem, and we're talking about the politically correct oriented left. What was the new left of the 1960s as a general rule? That's one of what separated them from the politically what is called the old left and the new left. And I'm part of a small faction of the left called the old left. I'm basically a social democrat or a democratic socialist, and I think it's consistent to be a Zionist and a leftist at the same time, because Israel's politically, in terms of public services and in terms of civil liberties, one can say that Israel is politically the most progressive country in the Middle East. Now, I know I'm going to hear some people on the radical left say Israel's an apartheid state. How can you say that? Well, this is how I can say that. Look at Israel. Look at the Middle East countries out there. Israel has socialized medicine. Israel probably has the strongest trade union movement in the entire Middle East. Israel has civil unions, same-sex civil unions. Israel's the only country in the Middle East not to have the death penalty. And even with the Muslim and Arab population that exists, they have more rights within the state of Israel than they do in other countries in that region. And the freest press. Israel, do they engage in wrongdoing against the Arabs, against the Palestinians, against the Muslims? Sure. And anybody from any ideological corner that calls me an anti-Semite because I can say that Israel do wrong, forget you. And those on the right that want to sit there and vilify the left and say, well, all people on the left are anti-Semitic and because many of them criticize Israel today, forget you as well, because it comes down to individuals, and there is no question about my left-wing credentials. I am so fucking far to the left that I make Barack Obama look like Rush Limbaugh. And this is my message to all you on the radical right that wants to sit there and scorn at the left. I make Barack Obama look like Rush Limbaugh. I said it. And guess what? I am a Zionist. And guess what? I support Occupy Wall Street. And what is the purpose of Occupy Wall Street? Well, for me, I like to see socialism. For those who are just generic liberals, they like to see the New Deal liberal consensus return. But the overall consensus and goals of Occupy Wall Street is the restoration of the middle class, the restoration of common sense in the political economy of the United States. And that's going to mean labor law reform. That's going to mean fair trade instead of free trade. It's also going to mean things like progressive taxation and real universal health care, not the false health care reform of Obama, but real health care reform like single-payer health care. This is what's going to restore the middle class in America, and this is what's going to revive the American dream. I see that in Occupy Wall Street, and they're going through a downward period right now. But as we're about to fall off the fiscal cliff, this is an opportunity. And for all you Democrats that put your hopes in Obama and the Democratic Party itself, this is your chance, through Occupy Wall Street, to hold the Democratic Party establishment accountable. Put their political feet to the fire, and you make sure that they listen to the left-wing base of the party, and do not be put off by corporate centrists, and do not be in the liberal establishment, and do not be put off and be scared of the Tea Party and the ultra right wing that sits there and have a tantrum if the political shift is challenged. Anyway, folks, please comment. I don't care what your political opinions are. Comment. I want to talk to you. And in some cases, I was like, want to talk back to you. But anyway, comment, and we'll have more discussion on this subject and other subjects in the near future. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.